Well, let's get across the market open, what we can expect from equities in this first hour of trade. Peter McGuire from XM joins me now. Good morning to you, Peter. All right, I suppose politics in Europe, we can't look past the uncertainty that has brought about and uncertainty to come because, this is just indicative of all this, the elections that we have going on around the world.
Absolutely, Nadine. Good, lovely to see you, and good morning. Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, it's impacting the markets as we know, and it's, I think, waking people up to differing views as far as what we saw in France and certainly Germany, and then rolling that across the Eurozone. So the impact that has naturally to, I think, the voting base and just perspectives. Everyone's got an opinion, and that's what the democratic situation is. And then that leads us to the US elections, November 5. And so I think volatility will remain. There's a lot of uncertainty. I think the flight to gold and to precious metals is going to increase over the months ahead, and keep a close eye naturally as far as what happens to US dollar in the short run.
Okay, but when we are thinking about Europe, we can't look past, maybe for a brighter note, the fact that we've got the footy season on there officially. Is there anything that sort of we can glean from that in terms of market action?
Well, exactly right. I mean, and some of the scores hit me by a bit of surprise. Scotland lost 5-1, so that wasn't a good sign for McGuire. But yeah, all of that, Nadine, there are so many differing components of it when you're looking at the analysis of where stock markets trade and, of course, football teams and how they correlate across the fabric of a competition like this, and where that, I think, opportunity presents itself, and then winning teams and losing teams and the impact that has to domestic economies as well. So we put a paper out on it. It was quite interesting. It's very detailed, but it's very simple when you're looking at the performance and what's in, I think, the opportunities, and there it is there. When you're thinking about what happens, will Germany carry it? They were convincing against Scotland 5-1. So is that going to continue, Nadine? I won't be surprised that Germany's up there with the, well, I think they're going to be in the last four. And to say they won't be in the last two.
All right. Well, at the very least, all the money being spent could be good for some of these European economies. I have nothing to add, so we'll leave that there. No perspective on the football in Europe. But I also know that we've got a lot of central banks meeting this week. I think I read that there's 8 central banks around the world meeting. Of course, ours is meeting right now, presumably, in the boardroom in Sydney. So what are we expecting, Pete?
Well, from RBA, we're not expecting any move, Nadine, up or down. So that's the storyline there. It'll stay as put for the last 5 months. So it's 5 straight months or 5 straight meetings at 4.35%. We're tipped to keep it at that rate. There is certainly concern as far as inflation ticking back up. And when you're looking at GDP, Nadine, it was at 0.1% for the first quarter of the year. Inflation trend seems much more worrying than the other countries, and it may be too soon to rule out any form of hike.
Okay, so there we go. RBA. We are also Bank of England. That's an important one, particularly as well if all these lines connect. There's an election coming up there. I don't think the cynic will be getting the cut that would probably be hoping for, correct?
No, exactly right. And that seems to be interesting how Rishi Sunak's going to perform. It's too hard to call as far as who's going to be in Downing Street. So all I know is that when you're looking at the UK economy, it's certainly having some major headwind ahead, and that's just continuing over this summer period. You would hope that there'd be a lot of tourism coming in, a lot of consumption, and it should be able to weather that sort of storm economically for the next couple of months, Nadine, with more dollars coming into the country. The pound is still sitting at that 1.26. It's very range bound, and there doesn't seem to be a lot going on, but CPI is slowly trending lower, and they really want to see it a little bit lower than where it is at the moment.
Okay, so that is the UK. We also have inflation data. We had the big ones from the US last week, consumer and producer prices. Do we get that in the UK as well this week?
I think we do. I think that number is being released, and I wouldn't be surprised that that could It could soften a fraction more. We've just got to see, and I'm waiting for those numbers to drop. There are so many different markets reporting. It's hard to keep a track of all of it. But yes, I'm just looking here. We've got also flash PMIs and UK CPI. So yeah, that drops. And then, Nadine, also you could see a second cut as far as the Swiss National Bank. So some are cutting, some are holding, and some are raising.
Yeah, all right. And so when we get to the commodities complex, Peter, where's your focus as we start this trading week?
Well, crude's choppy, Nadine. It's hard to make a dollar out of unless you're in there for short term and, ride a dollar up, ride $2 up, and then all of a sudden it gives up that. So it's, 82 to 78, 82 for Brent, 82 and a half. WTI 78.5, very range bound, but I wouldn't be surprised for it to edge up a little bit further this week. US dollar certainly had a big tick up, 105.60, so that's really got some horsepower behind it, and that really came out from last week's meeting with as far as the Fed. And then the other thing is that we've got to be conscious. I'm more focused on gold, 23.50. It's starting to gain momentum again for the upside, and don't take your eye off its little brother silver at 29.5. So it's plenty of scope as far as the commodity complex. So some of those base metals have given up big gains. There was 10,500 for copper, and now you're the best part of 9,700. So a lot of that hot air's come stripped out of it. So we've just got to keep an eye on what's going on as far as naturally performance of the base metals, and secondly, where's the dollar to be made from a trading perspective.